The wind on Kyrath 7 carried only dust. It had carried nothing else for 10,000 years. Senior researcher Talon stepped out of the landing craft and felt the dead soil crunch beneath her feet. Her four eyes adjusted to the dim light of a dying sun, and she looked across a landscape of broken cities and fallen towers. Nothing lived here. Nothing had lived here for a very long time. The surface scans were correct, said her assistant Merrick, checking his instruments. No biological signatures, no energy readings. This world is completely dead. Talon nodded slowly. The Velthari Dominion had sent her team to survey dead worlds along the edge of known space. It was boring work, cataloging ruins that no one cared about. But the Dominion wanted to know what had killed these ancient civilizations. They wanted to make sure the same thing would not happen to them. Spread out, Talon ordered her team. Document everything. We have 3 days before the transport returns. The team of 8 researchers moved into the ruins of what had once been a great city. The buildings were made of a strange metal that had not rusted despite the centuries. The architecture was beautiful in a sad way, all curved lines and tall spires that reached toward a sky that no longer held hope. Talon walked alone through the empty streets. She had visited many dead worlds, but this one felt different. There was something here, something waiting to be found. She could feel it in the way the wind seemed to push her in a certain direction. After an hour of walking, she found it. The structure rose from the ground like a great ring of black stone. It was 50 meters tall and covered in symbols that Talon had never seen before. The ring itself was broken, cracked down the middle, as if something had struck it with tremendous force. But despite the damage, despite the 10,000 years of neglect, light still blinked along its surface. By the stars, Talon whispered. Merrick, get over here. Now. Her assistant arrived 10 minutes later, breathing hard from running. When he saw the ring, he stopped and stared with all 4 of his eyes wide open. What is that? He asked. I think it is a portal, Talon said. A gateway to somewhere else. Look at the power readings. Merrick checked his instruments and his scales turned pale with shock. This is impossible. The technology here is at least 500 years more advanced than anything in the Dominion. Maybe more. Talon walked closer to the ring, studying the symbols carved into its surface. Her translator implant tried to make sense of them, but the language was not in any database. It was completely unknown. Then she found the beacon. It was a small device attached to the base of the portal, still blinking after all these centuries. A single button glowed with soft blue light, inviting her to press it. Talon, maybe we should wait, Merrick said nervously. We should call this in first. But Talon had not become a senior researcher by being careful. She pressed the button. The beacon hummed to life. A holographic display appeared in the air above it, showing symbols that slowly changed and shifted. The device was trying to translate itself, Talon realized. It was trying to communicate with whoever found it. After several minutes, the symbols became words she could read. To those who come after, the message said, the gateway is sealed. The human fleet will return when the stars align. Do not fear. We remember our promise. Talon read the message 3 times. Then she read it again. Human fleet, she said slowly. I have never heard of a species called humans. Merrick was already searching through the Dominion database. There is nothing, he said. No species by that name exists in any record. No empire, no federation, no colony, nothing. Talon looked at the broken portal and felt a chill run through her body. Someone had built this amazing technology. Someone had placed this warning. And someone had destroyed the gateway, sealing it forever. But they had promised to return. We need to report this immediately, Talon said. The council will want to know. They spent the next 2 days documenting everything about the portal. They photographed every symbol, recorded every energy signature, and mapped the entire structure in perfect detail. But it was on the 2nd day that Talon made the discovery that would change everything. Behind the portal, hidden beneath centuries of dust, she found the graves. There were thousands of them, neat rows of stone markers stretched across a field that had once been green. Each marker carried a name in a language Talon could not read, along with a symbol that looked like a small flame. These are not Velthari graves, Merrick said quietly. The bone structures are wrong. These were another species entirely. Talon knelt beside one of the markers and brushed away the dust. The stone was smooth and carefully carved. Whoever had buried these people had taken great care with them. They had been laid to rest with respect and honor. Someone buried them, Tylan said. After whatever killed them, someone came and buried them properly. She found the second inscription near the center of the graveyard. It was carved into a large monument, a stone pillar that rose 3 meters from the ground. The same translation technology that had decoded the beacon now translated these words as well. We came too late to save them. We will not be late again. Talon stood before the monument for a long time, reading those words over and over. The wind blew dust across her scales, and for a moment she thought she could hear voices on the wind. The voices of the dead, perhaps, or the voices of those who had buried them. When the transport arrived on the third day, Talon had her report ready. She transmitted it directly to the Dominion Council, marking it with the highest priority. Within hours, she received a response. The council was very interested. They were also very concerned. You will return to the capital immediately, the message said. You will share your findings with the military council. This matter is now classified. Talon did not like the sound of that. In her experience, when the military became involved, things became complicated, but she was a loyal citizen of the Dominion. She followed her orders. The journey back to the capital took 2 weeks. During that time, Talon studied the data she had collected, trying to understand what she had found. The portal technology was remarkable, but it was the message that kept drawing her attention. Do not fear, it had said. We remember our promise. What kind of species would leave such a message? What kind of empire would build portals across the galaxy, bury the dead of other species with honor, and then promise to return? Talon had never heard of anything like it. When she arrived at the capital, she was taken directly to the military council chambers. The room was full of admirals and generals, all of them watching her with suspicious eyes. High Admiral Vorath sat at the head of the table, his scarred face showing no emotion. He was the most powerful military leader in the Dominion, a veteran of 3 wars and countless smaller conflicts. He was also known for his hatred of any species that might threaten Velthari supremacy. Tell us about these humans, he commanded. Tylan presented her findings clearly and completely. She showed them the portal, the beacon, the message, and the graves. She explained that she had found no evidence of aggression, only evidence of compassion and respect for the dead. Vorath listened without expression. When she finished, he leaned forward. You found a warning that an unknown fleet will return, he said. You found advanced technology that makes our ships look like toys. And you want us to believe these humans are not a threat? The message said, do not fear, Talon replied. The evidence suggests they were protectors, not conquerors. Vorath laughed, and it was not a pleasant sound. Every conqueror calls themselves a protector. Every empire claims to bring peace. These humans destroyed their own portal network. Why would they do that unless they were hiding something? Talon had no answer for that. The question had bothered her as well. I am ordering a full investigation, Vorath announced. We will find every portal, decode every message, and prepare for the return of this human fleet. If they come in peace, we will greet them with open arms. If they come for war, we will be ready. The other officers nodded in agreement. Talon felt a weight settle in her stomach. She had found something amazing, something that could change the galaxy forever. But she had also awakened something else. Fear. As she left the council chambers, Talon looked up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars she knew, the human fleet was waiting. They had promised to return. She only hoped that when they did, the Dominion would be ready to meet them with something other than weapons. But looking at the faces of the admirals, she was not sure that hope was justified. The investigation was about to begin, and Talon had a feeling that what they found would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy, about their own history, and about the nature of power itself. The humans had buried the dead with honor. They had wept for strangers. What kind of species did that? Talon needed to find out, before Vorath and his admirals found them first. The investigation took Talon across the galaxy. For 6 months, she traveled from dead world to dead world, following a trail of ruins and broken portals. Everywhere she went, she found the same thing. Massive ring structures destroyed beyond repair. Warning beacons still broadcasting after 10,000 years. And graves, always graves, marking the final resting places of species that no one remembered. The humans had been everywhere. Tylan stood on the surface of Morthak Prime, looking at the seventh portal she had discovered. Like the others, it was broken. Like the others, it carried a message. But this time, the message was different. They came from the dark between stars, the beacon said. They killed without mercy. We held the line until the human fleet arrived. Remember us? Merrick stood beside her, recording the message for their growing archive. His scales had lost their healthy shine weeks ago. The things they had seen were taking a toll on both of them. This is different, he said quietly. This was not just a burial. This was a battlefield. Tylan nodded. The ruins around the portal were scarred with weapons fire. Great trenches had been dug into the earth, now filled with dust and time. Someone had fought here. Someone had died here. And then the humans had come. Look at this, Tylan said, pointing to a structure near the portal. It was a monument, like the ones she had found on other worlds. But this one was larger, more elaborate. It showed two figures standing side by side. One was clearly alien, with too many limbs and a body shaped like nothing Tylan had ever seen. The other was different. It was tall and stood on two legs. It had two arms, a round head, and a face with only two eyes. The figure was reaching out its hand toward the alien, not in violence, but in friendship. Is that a human? Merrick asked. I think so, Tylan replied. This must be what they looked like. She studied the human figure for a long time. It was not frightening. It was not monstrous. It looked almost gentle with its outstretched hand and its two soft eyes. But she knew that appearances could be deceiving. The data they had collected told a story, a terrible story. 10,000 years ago, the galaxy had been a different place. Many species had lived and thrived, connected by a network of portals that allowed instant travel between worlds. The humans had built this network. They had shared it freely with anyone who wished to use it. But something else had existed in that time. Something dark. Tyloon found references to them in the ruins of a species called the Krethali. Their records had survived, carved into stone that had resisted the centuries. They wrote of a great enemy that came from nowhere, that destroyed without warning, that killed entire worlds for reasons no one understood. They called them the Black Ships. The tall beings came through the doorways between stars, the Krethali record said. They wept for us even as they fought for us. They stood between us and the darkness. They called themselves humanity. Talon read the records again and again, trying to understand. The humans had not been conquerors. They had been defenders. They had built their portal network to protect the galaxy, to respond to threats wherever they appeared. But they had failed. The Black Ships had been too many, too powerful. World after world had fallen. Species after species had been wiped out. The humans had fought, but they had not been able to save everyone. And then they had done something extraordinary. They had destroyed their own portal network. Why would they do that? Merrick asked when Talon explained what she had learned. They cut themselves off from the entire galaxy. They trapped themselves in one small region of space. They did not trap themselves, Talon said slowly, as the truth became clear to her. They trapped someone else. The Black Ships had used the portal network too. They had traveled through it, spreading death wherever they went. The humans had realized that the only way to stop them was to close the doors forever. So they had. They had sacrificed their own empire, their own connections to the galaxy, to stop the Black Ships from spreading further. And then they had left their warnings, their promises. They said they would return, Talon whispered. They are still out there waiting. But waiting for what? The answer came when Talon returned to the capital to report her findings. She presented everything to the military council, showing them the evidence of the ancient war, the sacrifice of the humans, the defeat of the Black Ships. High Admiral Vorith listened with growing impatience. This is ancient history, he said when she finished. What does it have to do with us? Tylan hesitated. She had found something else during her investigation, something she was not sure she should share. But she was a researcher. She believed in truth. I found images of the Black Ships, she said, from the ancient records. She activated her display. The holographic image showed a fleet of vessels, dark and angular, covered in weapons and armor. They were terrifying to look at, designed for nothing but destruction. Voreth's face went pale. "Those ships," he said slowly. "I have seen that design before." "Yes," Talon said. "You have." She changed the display. Now it showed a Velthari warship, one of the newest designs from the Dominion military. The shape was different. The technology was less advanced, but the basic structure, the philosophy of the design, was exactly the same. The council chamber went silent. "Our ancestors," Talon said, her voice steady despite her fear. "They were called the Velkhari Empire. They were the black ships. They were the enemy that the humans fought." Voreth stood up so fast that his chair fell backward. "That is impossible," he shouted. "The Velthari have always been a peaceful species. We have never—" 10,000 years is a long time," Talon interrupted. "Histories are forgotten. Records are lost. But the evidence is clear. Our ancestors were conquerors. They destroyed worlds. They wiped out entire species. And the humans stopped them." She showed them more evidence. Records from dead worlds that named the Velkhari as the enemy. Monuments that showed Velthari ships attacking peaceful civilizations. Graves of species that had been murdered by Talon's own ancestors. The truth was undeniable. "The humans did not destroy the portal network to protect themselves," Talon said. "They destroyed it to trap our ancestors in a small region of space. They gave us time to change, to become something better than what we were." Voreth's face had gone from pale to dark with rage. "And you believe this fantasy? You believe that we, the proud Velthari, were once savages that needed to be taught by these humans?" "I believe the evidence," Talon said. "I believe the graves." Voreth stepped toward her, his hands clenched into fists. "Then you are a traitor to your own species. Guards, arrest this woman." Talon did not resist as the guards took her arms. She had expected this. The truth was dangerous, especially to those who did not want to hear it. But as they led her away, she saw something that gave her hope. Some of the officers in the room were looking at her evidence with troubled expressions. Some of them were starting to wonder if she might be right. The truth was out now. It could not be put back. In her cell that night, Talon thought about the humans and their sacrifice. They had given up everything to stop the Velkhari Empire. They had destroyed their own network, isolated themselves from the galaxy, and waited. They had waited 10,000 years, and now they were watching. Talon was sure of it. They were watching to see if the children of the Velkhari had learned anything, if they had become worthy of redemption. But what she had seen in the military shipyards told her that the Dominion had not learned. They were building a new fleet. They were planning new conquests. They were becoming their ancestors all over again. The humans had promised to return, but Talon now understood what that promise really meant. They would return when the Velthari proved themselves, either by becoming better than their ancestors or by becoming the same. And right now, Talon was not sure which way her species would choose. In the darkness of her cell, she heard footsteps approaching. The door opened to reveal an old Velthari, bent with age but with eyes that still sparkled with intelligence. "Senior Researcher Talon," he said softly. "My name is Historian Keldris. I believe we have much to discuss." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "The humans left one portal intact, one door that was never closed. I know where it is." Talon felt her heart begin to race. The story was not over yet. It was only beginning. Historian Keldris sat in the corner of Talon's cell, his old bones creaking as he lowered himself to the floor. The guards had let him in without question. No one paid attention to old historians, especially ones who spent their days buried in archives that no one else cared about. "How do you know about the portal?" Talon asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Keldris smiled, showing teeth worn down by centuries of life. "Because I have spent my entire life searching for the truth. The same truth that you have found." He pulled out a small device, ancient and covered in dust. When he activated it, a holographic map appeared in the air between them. It showed the galaxy, but not as Talon knew it. This map showed thousands of glowing points, all connected by thin lines of light. "This is what the galaxy looked like 10,000 years ago," Keldris said, "before the Great War, before our ancestors destroyed everything." Tylen studied the map with growing amazement. The portal network had been vast, connecting thousands of worlds across millions of light years. Travel that now took months would have taken seconds. The galaxy had been united in a way she could not imagine. The humans built all of this? She asked. They built it and shared it freely, Keldris replied. They asked for nothing in return. They only wanted to connect the galaxy, to allow different species to meet and learn from each other. He touched the map, and most of the lights went dark. Only a handful remained, scattered and isolated. This is what it looked like after the war. After your ancestors, the Valkyrie, decided that they wanted the network for themselves, that they wanted to control everything. Talon felt sick. She had seen the evidence on dead worlds across the galaxy, but seeing it laid out like this made it so much worse. Her species had destroyed something beautiful. They had murdered billions. Why did the humans not simply destroy us? She asked. They had the power. They could have ended the Valkyrie forever. Keldris's old eyes grew soft with something that looked like admiration, because that is not who they were. They did not believe in punishment without hope of redemption. They believed that any species, no matter how terrible their crimes, could become better. He showed her another image on his device. It was a recording, ancient and damaged, but still clear enough to understand. A human stood before a great assembly, speaking in a language that the device translated. "We will not commit genocide," the human said. "We will not become the monsters we fought against. The Valkyrie are young. They are afraid. They have made terrible choices, but they are still capable of growth. We will give them time. We will give them the chance to become something worthy of the stars." Talon watched the recording with tears in her eyes. The human was beautiful in a strange way, with soft skin and eyes that held more compassion than she had ever seen in any Valkyrie. "They forgave us," she whispered. "They gave us the opportunity to deserve forgiveness," Keldris corrected. "There is a difference. They destroyed the portal network to stop our expansion. They isolated us in this small corner of the galaxy. And then they waited. Waited for what?" Keldris leaned closer. "Waited to see what we would become. The warning beacons were not threats. They were tests. Any species that found them would have to choose how to respond, with fear and aggression, or with curiosity and hope." Tylen thought about High Admiral Vorth and his immediate assumption that the humans were enemies. She thought about the new fleet being built in secret shipyards, designed for conquest rather than exploration. She thought about the plans she had heard whispered in military corridors, plans to expand the Dominion by force. "We are failing the test," she said. "Some of us are," Keldris agreed, "but not all. That is why I'm here." He showed her one final image on his device. It was a planet, green and blue, orbiting a yellow sun at the edge of known space. A single portal stood on its surface, intact and undamaged. "The humans left one door open," Keldris said. "They hid it well, but I found references to it in the oldest archives. This is our chance, Tylen. Our chance to reach them before Vorth and his fleet bring war to the galaxy again." "But I am a prisoner," Talon said. "How can I possibly reach this portal?" Keldris smiled his old smile. "You have more friends than you know. Not everyone in the Dominion wants to repeat the sins of our ancestors. Some of us have been waiting for this moment for a very long time." The cell door opened again. Two Velthari officers stepped inside, but they were not there to guard Talon. They were there to free her. "Senior researcher," one of them said, saluting. "I am Captain Thyra. I have seen your evidence. I have read the ancient records. I will not let Vorth destroy everything again." Behind her stood a dozen more officers, all of them looking at Talon with determination in their eyes. They were young, most of them, born into a dominion that taught them they were superior to all other species. But they had seen the truth, and the truth had changed them. "We have a ship waiting," Thyra said. "It is not much, but it is fast. If we leave now, we can reach the portal world before Vorth realizes you are gone." Tylen looked at these brave Velthari who were risking everything to help her. She thought about what the humans had believed, that any species could become better. Maybe they were right. Maybe the Velthari were not doomed to repeat their history. "What about the fleet?" she asked. "What about Vorth's plans?" Captain Thyra's face darkened. "The fleet launches in 3 days. They are heading for the Rathani Collective. The Rathani are peaceful. They have no military to speak of. Vorith calls it expansion. I call it murder. The Rathani. Talon had heard of them. They were gentle beings who had never harmed anyone. They spent their lives creating art and music, sharing their culture with anyone who wished to learn. Vorith was going to destroy them simply because he could. We have to warn the humans, Talon said, her voice suddenly strong. We have to tell them what is happening. Maybe they can stop this. Keldris shook his head sadly. The humans will not intervene unless we prove ourselves worthy of their help. That is the test. We have to stop this ourselves, or at least show them that we tried. Talon understood. The humans had given the Velthari a chance to become better. Now it was time to take that chance. Let us go, she said. They moved quickly through the prison corridors, avoiding the main guards with Keldris's knowledge of forgotten passages. The old historian had spent decades preparing for this moment, learning every secret way in and out of the capital. When they reached the landing bay, Talon saw the ship Thyra had promised. It was small and old, a cargo vessel that no one would look at twice, but its engines had been modified, and its navigation systems were the best the Dominion could produce. Keldris, Talon said as they boarded, are you coming with us? The old historian shook his head. I am too old for such adventures. My work here is done. But take this. He pressed his ancient device into her hands. All my research. Everything I have learned about the humans over 60 years of searching. Use it well. Talon held the device like it was made of precious gems. Thank you for everything. Keldris smiled one last time. Thank me by proving the humans right. Show them that the children of the Velkhari can choose a different path. The ship lifted off, racing toward the stars while alarms began to sound behind them. Vorith would know soon that Talon had escaped. He would send ships to hunt her down. But Talon was not afraid. She was racing toward hope, toward the one door that was still open, toward the chance to prove that her species deserved redemption. The portal world was 3 days away. The fleet would launch in 3 days. Everything depended on what happened next. As the ship entered hyperspace, Talon looked at Keldris's research and began to read. The humans had waited 10,000 years for this moment. They had sacrificed their empire, their network, their place in the galaxy, all for the hope that one day the Velthari would choose to be better. Talon was going to make sure that sacrifice was not wasted. She was going to find the humans, and she was going to ask them for help, not to save the Velthari from their enemies, but to save the Velthari from themselves. The stars stretched past the windows, and somewhere ahead, a single portal waited in the darkness. The door was still open, and Talon was going to walk through it. The planet had no name in any Velthari database. It was listed only as a number, a worthless rock orbiting a dim star at the edge of nowhere. No one had visited it in recorded history. No one had any reason to. But as Talon's ship descended through the atmosphere, she understood why the humans had chosen this place. It was beautiful. Green forests covered the continents, blue oceans sparkled under a gentle sun, and white clouds drifted across a sky that had not seen war or destruction. This world was alive. It was at peace. And in the center of the largest continent, the portal stood waiting. By the stars, Captain Thera whispered as they approached. It is real. The portal was different from the others Talon had found. Those had been broken, scarred by ancient violence, left to decay in silence. This one was perfect. Its black stone surface gleamed as if it had been polished yesterday. Its symbols glowed with soft blue light, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. It was beautiful, and it was terrifying. They landed the ship 100 meters from the portal, in a clearing surrounded by tall trees. The air smelled sweet and fresh, carrying the scent of flowers Talon could not name. Birds sang in the branches above them. It felt like paradise. Talon walked toward the portal alone. The others hung back, watching with a mixture of hope and fear. None of them knew what would happen when she reached it. None of them knew if the humans would answer. She found the beacon at the base of the portal, just like the ones she had discovered on Dead Worlds. But this beacon was not broadcasting a warning. Its screen showed a single message, waiting for input. "Speak," the message said. "We are listening." Talon's heart pounded in her chest. She had practiced what she wanted to say during the 3 days of travel. She had written speeches and discarded them. She had tried to find the perfect words to explain why she had come. But now, standing before the portal that had waited 10,000 years, all her prepared words disappeared. There was only the truth. She pressed the button and spoke. My name is Talon. I am a researcher of the Velthari Dominion. I have found your portals. I have read your warnings. I have seen the graves of the species my ancestors destroyed. She paused, fighting back tears. I know what we were. I know what we did. And I know that many of my people are preparing to do it again. In 3 days, a fleet will launch to attack the Rathani, a peaceful species that has never harmed anyone. Millions will die, and it will not stop there. She looked up at the portal, at its ancient symbols and its patient light. I am not asking you to save us. I am not asking you to fight our battles. I am asking you to help me stop this, to help me prove that the Velthari can be something better than what we were. Please, we are not all monsters. Some of us remember. Some of us want to change. Silence followed her words. The beacon's light continued to pulse, showing no sign that anyone had heard. Minutes passed, then hours. Captain Thera approached carefully. Talon, maybe we should... The portal activated. Light exploded from its surface, so bright that Talon had to shield her eyes. The ancient ring hummed with power that had been sleeping for 10,000 years, and the air around it crackled with energy. The symbols on its surface blazed like stars. And then, through the light, a ship emerged. It was not a warship. Talon could see that immediately. It was small and elegant, designed for speed rather than battle. Its hull was white and silver, and it carried no visible weapons. It looked like something an artist would create, not a soldier. The ship landed gently on the grass near Talon's vessel. A door opened in its side and a ramp extended to the ground. A human walked down the ramp. She was smaller than Talon had expected from the ancient monuments. Her skin was brown, her hair was black and long, and her 2 eyes were dark and deep. She wore simple clothing of white and blue, with no armor or weapons. She walked toward Talon with steps that showed no fear. Senior Researcher Talon, the human said. Her voice was soft and warm. My name is Yuki Tanaka. I am an ambassador of the Human Federation. Talon could not speak. She had spent months searching for evidence of the humans. She had risked everything to find them. And now one stood before her, looking at her with eyes that held more understanding than Talon could comprehend. You came, Talon finally managed to say. You actually came. Ambassador Tanaka smiled, and it transformed her face into something beautiful. We have been watching since you found the first portal. We have seen everything you discovered. We heard what you told the council. You were watching? All this time? We never stopped watching, Tanaka said. For 10,000 years we have observed your people. We have seen your struggles and your failures. We have seen your cruelty and your kindness. We have waited to see which would win. She stepped closer to Talon, close enough that Talon could see the tiny lines around her eyes, the signs of age and wisdom. When you found the graves and wept for the dead, we noticed. When you risked your career to tell the truth, we noticed. When you chose to seek us out instead of hiding from the past, we noticed. Talon felt tears running down her face. But we are about to make the same mistakes. The fleet is launching. The Rathani will be destroyed. Yes, Tanaka said, and her voice carried sadness. We know. We had hoped your people would choose differently. We had hoped that 10,000 years would be enough. Then help us stop them, please. Your ships, your technology. Tanaka raised a hand, and Talon fell silent. We could stop them, the ambassador said. Our fleet is already in position. We have been waiting in the dark spaces between stars since your military began their buildup. If we wanted to, we could destroy every Velthari warship before they fired a single shot. She looked at Talon with those dark, deep eyes. But that would not solve anything. Your people would only fear us. They would hate us. They would build more ships and try again. The cycle would never end. Talon understood, and the understanding broke her heart. You want us to stop ourselves. We want you to prove that you can, Tanaka said. Not because we forced you, not because we threatened you, but because you chose to be better. How? I am one researcher with a handful of officers. Vorith has the entire military behind him. Tanaka smiled again, and this time there was something like hope in her expression. You have something more powerful than warships, Talon. You have the truth, and you have allies you do not know about yet. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. It showed the Velthari fleet, hundreds of ships gathered at a military station, preparing to launch. But it also showed something else. Throughout the fleet, throughout the Dominion, small lights were blinking. These are Velthari who have seen your evidence, Tanaka explained. Officers, soldiers, civilians who have learned what their ancestors did. They are confused. They are ashamed. They do not know what to do. The display zoomed in on one ship, then another. In each one, crew members were gathered in small groups, talking in whispers, looking at images of ancient graves and broken portals. Your message is spreading, Tanaka said. The truth cannot be contained. All it needs is someone to give these people a choice, a reason to stand up, a voice to follow. Talon stared at the display, at all those blinking lights. So many Velthari were questioning everything they had been taught. So many were ready to change. You want me to be that voice, she said. I want you to be yourself, Tanaka replied. The researcher who wept for strangers, the Velthari who chose truth over comfort. Show your people what you showed us. Give them the chance to choose. And if they choose wrong, if Vorith wins, Tanaka's expression grew serious. Then we will protect the Rithani. We will not allow another genocide, but we will do everything we can to avoid destroying your fleet. We will give your people every chance to stand down. She reached out and took Talon's hand. The touch was warm and gentle, and Talon felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. You are not alone, Talon. You never were. Now go. The fleet launches in less than 2 days. Show your people who they can be. The human ambassador squeezed her hand once, then released it. We will be watching. We will be ready. And whatever happens, know this. You have already proven that some Velthari deserve redemption. Now help your people prove it too. Talon looked at the portal, at the ship that had come from across the galaxy, at the human who had waited 10,000 years for this moment. Then she turned to Captain Thera and her crew. You heard her, Talon said, and her voice was strong. We have work to do. They ran back to their ship, hearts racing with fear and hope. Behind them, Ambassador Tanaka watched them go. Good luck, she whispered, for all our sakes. The portal remained open, waiting, and somewhere in the darkness of space, the human fleet waited too. The final choice was about to be made. The Velthari fleet hung in space above Rithani Prime, like a swarm of predators waiting to strike. 300 warships, each one bristling with weapons, each one carrying soldiers trained for conquest. At their center, the command vessel Dominion's Pride carried High Admiral Vorith himself. He stood on his bridge, watching the peaceful planet below with hungry eyes. The Rithani had not even tried to flee. They had no warships, no planetary defenses, nothing that could challenge the might of the Dominion fleet. They had simply sent a message asking why the Velthari had come. Vorith had not bothered to reply. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Orbital bombardment stations are locked on major population centers. Ground forces are prepared for landing. Vorith allowed himself a small smile. This was the beginning of something great. After the Rithani fell, other species would follow. The Dominion would expand across the galaxy, taking what it deserved. The universe belonged to the strong, and the Velthari were the strongest. Begin the attack, he ordered. The tactical officer hesitated. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission. It is broadcasting on all military frequencies. Vorith frowned. From the Rithani, ignore it. No, Admiral. It is from one of our own ships. The signal is being amplified across the entire fleet. Before Vorith could respond, the main display flickered. A face appeared that Vorith recognized immediately. Talon. People of the Dominion, she said, her voice steady and clear. Officers and soldiers of the fleet. My name is Talon, and I have a truth to share with you. A truth about who we are and who we do not have to be. The display changed, showing images that Vorith had never wanted his fleet to see. Ancient graves, broken portals, monuments carved with the names of species that the Velthari had destroyed 10,000 years ago. Our ancestors were not explorers, Talon continued. They were conquerors. They murdered billions. They wiped entire civilizations from existence. They were so terrible that another species had to sacrifice everything just to stop them. Across the fleet, crew members stopped what they were doing. They gathered around displays, watching with wide eyes as the evidence unfolded. The same evidence that had been spreading through whispered channels for days, now broadcast for everyone to see. The humans stopped our ancestors, Talon said, not by destroying us, but by giving us a chance to become better. They waited 10,000 years for us to prove that we had changed. 10,000 years of patience. 10,000 years of hope. Her face appeared on the screen again, and there were tears on her scales. Today we have a choice. We can repeat the sins of our ancestors. We can murder the Rathani, an innocent species that has never harmed us. We can prove that 10,000 years taught us nothing. She paused, letting her words sink in. Or we can choose differently. We can show the galaxy that the children of the Velkari have learned from the past. We can be protectors instead of destroyers. We can be worthy of the second chance we were given. Vorith slammed his fist against his command chair. Cut that transmission. Arrest anyone who continues to broadcast it. But his orders went unheard. Across the fleet, officers were looking at each other with troubled expressions. Some were lowering their weapons. Some were stepping away from their battle stations. The evidence Talon had shown them was too powerful to ignore. Admiral, the tactical officer said quietly, multiple ships are reporting that their crews refuse to fire. They are standing down. Then I will execute them all for treason, Vorith roared. All ships that remain loyal, follow my command. We will complete this mission, and we will deal with the traitors afterward. 100 ships responded to his order. 200 remained silent. Vorith did not care. 100 ships were more than enough to destroy the defenseless Rathani. He would complete his mission, and then he would hunt down Talon and everyone who had helped her. Target the capital city, he commanded. Fire on my mark. The loyal ships moved into position, their weapons powered up. Vorith raised his hand, ready to give the order that would kill millions. And then the human fleet appeared. They came from everywhere at once, from behind asteroids and moons, from the darkness between stars, from places where Velthari sensors had shown nothing but empty space. Thousands of ships appearing like ghosts, surrounding the Dominion fleet in a wall of silver and white. Vorith stared at the tactical display as it filled with contacts. More ships than he could count. More firepower than the entire Dominion military combined. And they were everywhere, blocking every escape route, covering every angle. The Dominion fleet was completely surrounded. A new transmission appeared on Vorith's display. A human woman with dark eyes and a calm expression. Hi, Admiral Vorith, Ambassador Tanaka said. I am speaking on behalf of the Human Federation. We have come to honor a promise we made 10,000 years ago. Vorith could not speak. His mouth hung open in shock. We promised the dead of 100 worlds that their sacrifice would not be forgotten. We promised that the children of the Velkari would have the chance to become worthy of the stars. Today, some of your people have proven us right. The display showed the 200 ships that had refused to fire. Their crews were watching the human fleet with expressions of wonder rather than fear. We ask you to stand down, Tanaka continued. We ask you to return to your space and face justice for your actions. We do not want to destroy you. We did not want to destroy your ancestors. We believe that any species can change. Vorith finally found his voice. You think I will surrender to you? You are bluffing. Your ships carry no weapons. This is a trick. Tanaka's expression did not change. You are welcome to test that theory, Admiral. But I must warn you, we have had 10,000 years to prepare for this moment. 10,000 years to develop technologies you cannot imagine. We could destroy your fleet without losing a single ship. She leaned forward slightly, but we would rather not. We would rather you choose to walk away. We would rather you prove that some part of you is worthy of redemption. Vorith looked at his tactical display. The human ships had not raised shields. They had not targeted weapons. They simply hung in space, waiting. It was the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. Power so vast that it did not need to threaten. Strength so absolute that it could afford patience. All ships, Vorith said slowly, his voice hollow, fire at will. His remaining 100 ships launched their attack. Missiles streaked toward the human fleet. Energy beams blazed across space. Every weapon the Dominion possessed was unleashed in a single devastating barrage. The human shields absorbed everything. Not a single ship was damaged. Not a single hull was scratched. The attack that should have annihilated anything in its path simply vanished against shields that glowed briefly and then went dark. And still the humans did not fire back. "Vorith," Tanaka said gently, "please, do not make us do this. Choose to be better than your ancestors." But Vorith was beyond reason. He ordered another attack and another. His ships fired until their weapons ran dry, and still the human shields held. His crews began to panic, realizing that they were trapped by an enemy that could destroy them at any moment, but simply chose not to. On the Dominion's pride, officers began to back away from Vorith. They had seen enough. They had heard Talon's words. They had watched their most powerful weapons fail against shields that should not exist. Captain Thera's voice came through the communication system. "Crew of the Dominion's pride, this is Captain Thera of the Reformist movement. High Admiral Vorith is no longer fit for command. For the sake of our species, for the sake of our future, I ask you to stand down." Vorith turned to his bridge crew, expecting loyalty, expecting them to arrest this traitor. They did not move. They would not meet his eyes. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "it is over." Vorith stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by officers who had finally seen the truth. He had lost, not to superior firepower, but to something he could not understand. Mercy. The aftermath came quickly. Vorith was arrested by his own crew. The fleet stood down, and across the Dominion, the truth spread like light through darkness. The story of what their ancestors had done. The story of the humans who had waited 10,000 years. The story of Tylon, who had shown them a different path. Weeks later, Tylon stood before the monument on Kareth 7, the first portal she had ever found. The wind still carried dust, but it felt different now. It felt like a beginning rather than an end. Ambassador Tanaka stood beside her, watching as human engineers worked to repair the ancient gateway. "You kept your promise," Talon said. "You returned." "We never left," Tanaka replied. "We were always watching, always hoping." She turned to face Talon directly. "And now we will rebuild together. Not just the portals, but everything. It will take time. Trust does not come quickly, but for the first time in 10,000 years, there is hope." Human workers added a new inscription to the monument, new words carved in stone to stand beside the ancient warning. "The human fleet returned. The children of the Velkari chose to remember. The promise is kept." Tylon read the words and felt tears on her scales. So much had been lost. So much could never be undone. But for the first time in her life, she believed that the future could be different from the past. Tanaka placed a hand on her shoulder. "Every species has darkness in their history. What matters is whether you carry it forward or leave it behind." Talon looked at the portal, at the human ships in orbit, at the new world being built from the ashes of the old. "We will leave it behind," she said. "I promise." The portal hummed with power, ready to connect worlds again, ready to build bridges instead of barriers. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the human fleet watched over the galaxy as they always had, patient, hopeful, ready to welcome any species that chose to reach for the stars with open hands instead of clenched fists. The promise had been kept, and the future finally belonged to everyone.